being obese, what causes obesity, what you can do to run away from it. It is a medical condition that has to do with gaining body fat, and you see a lot of us are guilty. I did also mention the fact that it's possible to look skinny and still be obese, because body fat is not just the one that you see on the body, and I don't mean spiritual fat. Before you guys wanna ask me if it's not a physical fat, is it then a spiritual fat? But anyways, it's just adding body fat, and this is what obesity is, and it can be as a result of what you eat. It's majorly about what you eat. So sometimes people say it's hereditary. We have an obese mom, the children get obese, and then the circle continues. But when you look at that, you'd see, if you examine that situation critically, you'd see that it's because of a eating pattern or eating habit, or the kind of diet that they take. That's the reason it moves from one person to another. Because if we're all in the same house and we're eating the same kind of thing, and it's basically not healthy, we all will be prone to the same illness. It's just that for some it might be an extreme case, but for others it might be quite mild. But yes, the main reason for obesity, the main cause of obesity, is improper diet. We're eating things at an infractional level. You're eating mostly starch, no fruits, no vegetables, nothing. You just keep on taking more and more calories, and then you don't find ways to burn out those calories. This is what causes obesity. Just to refresh our minds again, you see a couple of us who sit in front of the system, those people who do 9 to 5 jobs, you're in front of the system, from morning up until that time, you're just munching on things, you're taking soda, you're having a lot of sugar, just taking a lot of calories, but you're not burning it down in any way. No exercise, no physical exercise, no body movement, no dieting. You just continue taking in these calories without looking for ways to burn them out. These are some of the causes of obesity, and I did encourage that if you are not someone who cares about what you eat, it is important that you go set a timetable for yourself. That's like the easiest way to start to eat healthy. That's like one of the easiest way to now have a proper diet. Take a timetable, look for how to section these things. I'm eating carbohydrates once a week. I want to eat carbohydrates once a week. I want to eat more of protein. I want to eat more of this. What are the health benefits of this? Start to now be interested in what you eat, so that you can now have a healthy diet, and then a healthy body and a healthy lifestyle eventually. But today, what we will be talking about is something that a lot of us don't quite know. You see, we see certain traits in our children, and even in adults, you see some of these traits in them, but you never really know what the reason for that is. Some of us have mistaken this for this child is stubborn, this adult is stubborn, she doesn't listen. Some of us have mistaken this particular thing we're talking about today, we have mistaken it for so many things. You just think that the person is being, again, some of these attributes your children exhibit, there are medical conditions, or there are explanations to these things, if only you can find out, if only you can research on some of this. Now, I heard this mentioned first time in a movie, and then I started to read about it, what exactly it meant, how does it affect people, how long does it last, and I thought that it would be a good time to have such a conversation, share such a conversation with us here. Now, the topic of today is ADHD. That is Attention Deficit Hyperactivity Disorder. Attention Deficit Hyperactivity Disorder, ADHD or ADHD. A lot of us, we might have heard about this, but we don't know exactly what it is. But anyways, that's why we're here today, and that's why I'm here to let us know what ADHD means and how it does affect your child and affects even some adults, because it's not something that is curable, and it's just it mostly manifests in your traits, your attributes, your behavioral pattern. It's not something that will most likely keep you sick or bedridden and all of that. But yes, ADHD is the conversation we'll be having today. Please tell a friend to tune in and be a part of this conversation as well. Remember, when we talk about these things, it's an avenue. I definitely will be right back.
Do you have questions about your health? Well, look no further. On Mind and Body, you are our business. Tune in as we discuss with health experts on everything that concerns you and your well-being. Mind and Body. Mondays, 11 a.m. on Eagles 102.3 FM, Abuja.
Eagles 102.3 FM. Abuja, here to stay.
Do you have questions about your health? Well, look no further. On Mind and Body, you are our business. Tune in as we discuss with health experts on everything that concerns you and your well-being. Mind and Body. Mondays, 11 a.m. on Eagles 102.3 FM, Abuja.
Welcome again, and thanks for staying tuned. It's Eagles 102.3 FM Abuja, your radio experience. You can count on 24 minutes gone past the hour of 11. And yes, of course, we're moving straight into the conversation we have for this hour. It's the Mind and Body segment, and of course, it is the only health segment, or it is the health segment of the Midday Extra show here at Eagles FM. And it's a time where we get to dedicate to talking about health problems. And today on our list, we're talking about ADHD, which is attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. ADHD is attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. Now, ADHD is one of the most common neurodevelopmental disorders of children. Now, it is usually first diagnosed in childhood. Paying attention. This is one of the major challenges of people who have ADHD. They have trouble paying attention and controlling impulsive behaviors. Now, they may act without thinking about what the result will be, or they may be overly active. Now, the thing is, a lot of us, in so many ways, a lot of us mistake that, or we hide under the guise of ADHD. I have ADHD, that's why I don't pay attention when people talk to me. I have ADHD, that's why I act without thinking. I'm sorry. A lot of people have, abused that term. A lot of people are also who actually genuinely means. But today, I will be breaking the jinx and letting us know that ADHD is a disorder. It's a neurodevelopmental disorder. And now the effect of this disorder is that the person who has it finds it difficult to pay attention. That's one. Secondly, they may be overly active. So while their counterparts are able to just go 2-3 hours run, they're able to move into 6-5, hyperactive, overly active, and they may act without thinking about what the results will be. They just live free, and this is it. Now, it is normal for children to have trouble focusing. Normally, children have problem with focusing on something. You tell them move here, they find it difficult to do exactly that. That's why you have to constantly remind them. So ordinarily, children have trouble focusing and behaving, at one time or another. Now, but children with ADHD, they do not just grow out of these behaviors. The symptom continues. Very short attention span, and it can be severe and can cause difficulty at school, at home, or with friends. So you see that now it's normal for a child to have trouble focusing and behaving one at a time, do things one at a time. But you see, a child who has ADHD, you'd know, because the child never outgrows it. It's expected that when a child becomes 5, at least they now know right from wrong. They are now able to make decisions for themselves. If you tell them do this, they'll say no, they don't want to do this. They can argue about all of those things. But you see a child with ADHD, they're always still having problem with focusing on one thing. And that's why you see them doing multiple things at once, even if these things do not give them results. Even if they don't get results from all of these things they're doing, they still also we keep doing it, because that's the symptoms, or these are the signs of someone who has ADHD. The child does not just grow out of these behaviors, and the symptoms continue to be severe and can cause difficulty at school and at home, because in class. So have you ever been somewhere where you're having a serious conversation, or you're in class, you're trying to concentrate, and there's someone always there, either using their pencils to hit something to make a noise or make a sound, or just they're not able to stay at a place, they cannot focus exactly on what is going on. Sometimes this might be severe cases of ADHD, short attention span, they have zero to no ability to zero ability to concentrate or focus on one thing at a time. Now, a child with ADHD might fight certain things, like they daydream a lot. Even some people that do not have ADHD, we all daydream, but a child with ADHD may daydream a lot. They may forget or lose things a lot. So when they come back from school, you see that their bags are empty. They don't know where they kept their pencils. They don't know who they gave their books to, and all of that. They can forget things a lot. You try to remind them a couple of times that, this is what happened. They never remember a conversation. Once they are done with having that conversation here and they walk out, they may never, remember again. Now, people with ADHD, they often talk too much. Remember, one of the symptoms or one of the signs is that they are overly active. They do things mostly without thinking about it first. So when you see a child who talks too much, sometimes it might just be a natural trait that they picked up from somewhere. They probably had a parent who talks too much. They probably had a sibling, or they're exposed to an environment where they see people talk a lot. Or it might just be an intrinsic quality that, the child is very interested in communication and all of that. But for a child with ADHD, it's none of these things. They just talk too much, a little too much. And then you see some of us keep quiet. Must you talk? You're always talking and all of that. But we do not understand that some of these things are the signs and symptoms of things like ADHD. Now, a child with ADHD might also make careless mistake or take unnecessary risk. And you see some of this. I'm trying to bring it close home because we see these things a lot in our environment. But sometimes we beat these children and we try to blame these people for being irrational, for acting maybe stupid or so. Sorry for that language. But you see, we might always say, are you crazy? Why are you doing this? Why are you acting irrationally? Some of them do not even realize that they do these things. So it takes your observation and knowing that, okay, this is an abnormal behavior. How long has this lasted for? Can the child correct this? Or can this person correct this? Then you can know, what you're dealing with exactly. But a child who has ADHD, you'd mostly see that they make careless mistakes or they take uncalculated and unnecessary risk. You see them just getting into the road. They're not even thinking whether a car can hit them or something. They're playing with things that can hurt them. They make this careless mistake and this risk as well. Now, they have a hard time resisting. If you call someone with ADHD, if you call them to join you, they'll most likely join you. They have a hard time resisting, should I say temptations now? They have a very hard time resisting things like that, and they have trouble taking turns. If you say, okay, after you are the next person, they have trouble taking turns and they have difficulty getting along with others. So if you see these symptoms, you know that the person is probably fighting ADHD. They dream a lot, they forget or lose things a lot, talk too much, make careless mistake or take unnecessary risk, uncalculated risk as well, have a hard time resisting temptation, and having trouble taking turns and having difficulty getting along with others. Now, we have about 2 or 3 types of ADHD. The first is these 3 different ways ADHD presents itself. These are like 3 different ways you can see ADHD manifest in people, depending on which type of symptom are strongest in the individual. Then you know that, okay, this person has ADHD. We have predominantly inactive presentation, PIP, predominantly inactive presentation. Now, it is hard for that individual to organize themselves or finish a task, or to even pay attention to details, or to follow instructions or conversations whatsoever. A person who has this type of ADHD finds it difficult to finish a task. And that's why you see some people, they take on lots and lots of tasks. I had worked one time with someone who had this ADHD, but At that time, I didn't even realize that it was ADHD the person was dealing with. I just thought it's just a very careless behavior. You are working on this project, you are not done, you started implementing another project, you started introducing another project, you never finish any of these tasks, never finish any of this responsibility, because for someone who has predominantly inattentive presentation, they find it difficult to organize themselves or finish a task or pay attention to details or follow instructions or conversations whatsoever. When you see these things predominantly play out in the life of a person or play out in the character of a person, you know that the person is easily distracted or forgets details of daily routines. Then you know the person is dealing with predominantly inattentive presentation. This is also one and the first type of ADHD a person can be dealing with. Now, second way that ADHD manifests in a person is predominantly hyperactive, impulsive presentation. While one is inattentive presentation, the other one is hyperactive, impulsive presentation. Predominantly hyperactive, impulsive presentation. Now, for someone who has ADHD manifest in such a way, the person fidgets and talks a lot. It's hard to sit still for a long time, for a meal or while doing homework. You see children who, they'll be doing their homework, they will walk back and forth 20 times, and you see the parents screaming, come and do your assignment. You're beating them. Come and do your assignment, pay attention to this, eat your food. Why can't you sit one place and eat your food or have your meal? You know, some of these things are the ways that ADHD manifests in a child. The person talks a lot, the person finds it hard to stay still. Now, smaller children may run, jump, or climb things constantly, but the individual feels restless and has trouble with impulsivity. For such a person, you know that they have predominantly hyperactive, impulsive presentation, and it is a form of manifestation of ADHD. Now, someone who is impulsive may interrupt others a lot, may grab things from people or speak at an impulsive way or inappropriate times. You see, someone who is impulsive may interrupt others a lot, grab things from people. They never let you finish while you're talking. They want to talk and they almost never let you talk, you know. So a person like this has the hyperactive, impulsive presentation of ADHD, and it's hard for the person to wait their turn to listen to directions. A person with impulsiveness may have more accidents and injuries than others. You know what is impulse? People do things they don't think about it, they just do it. These people are very impulsive people. So before they get the time to even think about the consequence of what they're doing, they have already done it, and then they now start facing the consequences of that. So this is the second way ADHD manifests, predominantly hyperactive, impulsive presentation. Now, the third form of ADHD is combined presentations. This one is just the symptoms of the two types. That's predominantly hyperactive, impulsive presentation and predominantly inattentive presentation. All of these symptoms are equally present in a person with combined presentation, because symptoms can change over time. The presentation may change over time as well. It might now be predominantly inattentive presentation, or it can now be predominantly hyperactive, impulsive presentation. This person has all two of these types of ADHD combined together. Different types might manifest at different times at different situations as well. Now, let's look at the major cause of ADHD, because it's not enough to just know what ADHD is. What causes ADHD? Now, some scientists are studying causes and risk factors in an effort to find better ways to manage and reduce the chances of a person having ADHD. You know, the causes and risk factors for ADHD are unknown. It's not like you can say, it's not like what they call it now, malaria, that you can say malaria is caused by mosquitoes. It's not like all those illnesses you can know exactly what causes them. But the current research shows that genetic plays an important role in ADHD. So recent studies like genetic factors with age, it shows that, the genes have something to do with ADHD. Now, scientists are also studying other possible causes and risk factors of ADHD, like a brain injury, exposure to environmental risk like lead during pregnancy or at a young age. Now, they are also researching things such as alcohol and tobacco use during pregnancy. So if the mother is found, using alcohol or tobacco or any one of these substances during pregnancy, research is trying to prove that they might also be risk factors for ADHD. Now, premature delivery also factors that are being considered as the cause of ADHD, and then birth weight. Birth weight is also low birth rate is also one of the constituent factors of ADHD. Now, this research does not support the popularly held view that ADHD is caused by eating too much sugar, because a lot of people say ADHD is caused by eating too much sugar or watching too much television, parenting or social and environmental factors such as poverty or family chaos causes ADHD as well. But many things, including these, might make the symptoms of ADHD worse. Someone who is always focused on watching television, always watching, drinking sugar or having too much sugar, things that are sweet. Normally, when you take a lot of glucose, you become hyperactive already. And that's where the word sugar rush comes from. You see children who you give them this soda, they've drank, and immediately they are running all up and about, because this is what glucose does to the body. It makes you hyperactive. It makes you physically active. Too much of it for a person with ADHD just amplifies the situation, but it doesn't necessarily cause the situation. So many things like this, watching television for a long period of time, also might make the ADHD symptoms worse, especially in certain people. But the evidence is not strong enough to conclude that the main causes of ADHD. They are just suspected causes of ADHD, and medical investigations are still going on now. What is the diagnosis of ADHD? It's okay to know that someone has ADHD, but what can you do to diagnose? What are the diagnoses? Now, diagnosis is knowing exactly what it is that is wrong with that child. Now, so deciding if a child has ADHD is a process that has several steps. Like I said, for malaria, you can know that the person has been exposed to mosquitoes, that is why they're now suffering from malaria. For typhoid, you can say, okay, you have eaten, dirty stuff, you have, so many things that causes typhoid as well. I don't know about that, but you can tell. For some illnesses, you can tell the reason that they are going through what they're going through. Remember the last time we talked about food poisoning, and we said you'd be vomiting and stooling and body weakness. You can tell when a person manifests these symptoms that they possibly have food poisoning. But for ADHD, it takes several processes and it takes several steps before you are able to determine that the person has ADHD. There's no single test to diagnose ADHD. So you go to the doctor and say, test me if I have ADHD. There's no single test to diagnose ADHD, and many other problems like anxiety. You cannot go to the hospital and say, please check if I have anxiety, or check if I have depression, or check if I have sleeping problems as well. There's some medical conditions that you cannot tell by just going to the hospital to take tests whatsoever. So this is the same with ADHD. There's no single test to diagnose ADHD. And certain types of learning disabilities as well, you cannot say this is the reason, these are the diagnosis, you have ADHD because of that or this. But one step of the process involves having a medical examination, which includes hearing and vision tests. This is to rule out other problems with symptoms like ADHD. Having a medical exam, including hearing and vision test, to rule out other problems with symptoms like ADHD. Now, diagnosing ADHD usually includes a checklist for rating ADHD symptoms, and taking a history of the child from parents to teachers, and sometimes the child himself. You keep asking the child these questions, because if you notice it, you go to the hospital or you go to the doctor and say, I noticed this trait. The doctor will not tell you, immediately that this child has ADHD. Sometimes they have to speak with the teachers, they have to speak with the parents and the child to be able to know if this child actually has ADHD. Remember some of these symptoms: low attention span, not very impulsive, and all of these things. In speaking, the doctor now understands these traits because of his training. He understands these traits and he understands how they manifest, and he will be able to ascertain whether or not that child has ADHD or not. But there's no single test that you go to the hospital, they draw blood out of your vein and say, okay, let's go for a test, let's go to the lab, this person has ADHD. No test as well. It takes like a series of processes to be able to diagnose a person with ADHD. Now, I know a lot of us might be asking questions. Are there treatments for ADHD? Can someone who has ADHD be treated? In most cases, it is best treated with a combination of behavior therapy and medication. So for preschool age children, like from 4 to 5 years and above with ADHD, behavior therapy, particularly training for parents, is recommended as the first line of treatment before medication is tried. Remember, it's a behavioral pattern, so you can that's the same way you cannot have drugs for ADHD and say this person has ADHD, I place you on paracetamol, I place you on this sedative, I place you on this. Nah. For children, smaller children from 4 to 5 years with this ADHD, behavior therapy, particularly training for parents, is recommended as the first line of treatment before medication is even tried. What works best can depend on the child and family. Good treatment plans will also include close monitoring by the doctors, follow-ups, and making changes if needed along the way. This is one of the ways to treat ADHD. Remember, it's a behavioral pattern, so you need behavior therapy, and the parents also need to learn how to treat a child or how to manage a child with ADHD. I hope we're learning about this, and yes, of course, let me head out for a little bit. When we get back, we'll talk about how to manage the symptoms of ADHD and how to stay healthy, and how to stay healthy at all times, including for a person with ADHD. Please do not go anywhere. I'll be right back.
Sorry for the inconvenience.
I suppose it was inevitable.
Eagles 102.3.
Tap in and turn it up all day. This is Beyonce.
Hey, it's Lil Nas X.
Hi, I'm Harry Styles.
Yeah, this is Burna Boy.
Playing the artists you love.
Eagles 102.3.
No offense to the commercials. It's just that we want to see other audio.
Eagles 102.
So welcome again, and thanks for staying with us. We have about 8 minutes until we wrap it up here on the Mind and Body segment of the show. If you're just joining us, we have been talking about ADHD, and it is attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. ADHD is attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, and this is how to call it again. And this is a neurodevelopmental disorder of childhood, and it is usually first diagnosed in childhood and often lasts until adulthood if it is not properly managed. Now, children with ADHD may have trouble paying attention. They also are quite impulsive. They have controlling and very impulsive behavior, and they might be overly active. Some of the symptoms we talked about is a child with ADHD might daydream a lot, forget or lose things a lot, scream and fidget, talk too much, take careless and uncalculated and unnecessary risk as well. Now, they may have hard time resisting temptation, and that's why they get into trouble all the time, and they might have troubles taking turns and have difficulty getting along with others. If you notice any of these things, these are signs and symptoms of ADHD. Now, we talked about the 3 types of ADHD. The first is predominantly inattentive presentation. Predominantly inattentive presentation. This person is easily distracted and forgets details of daily routines. Now, the second one is predominantly hyperactive impulsive presentation. This person has a hard time waiting for their turns. They speak at inappropriate times. They are very interruptive. They grab things from people, and a person with impulsiveness may have more accidents and injuries than others. Now, we talked about also the combined presentation, which is a combination of both predominantly inattentive presentation and, of course, predominantly hyperactive impulsive presentation. This person today might manifest the first, tomorrow might manifest the second. And now I also did mention the fact that ADHD does not have any, you cannot say it's because of too much sugar, because scientists have been researching on ADHD for a while now, and some people have come up with the opinion or the theory that ADHD might be caused by spending long hours in front of the screen or taking too much of sugar and all of that. But scientists have come out to debunk that, saying, you know what, ADHD might not necessarily be caused by these things, but these things can amplify the signs and the symptoms of ADHD. And I talked about how sugar causes that sugar rush, which makes you, hyperactive and, active literally all day long. Now, also, we said that some of the scientists are still studying and say other possible causes and risk of ADHD are brain injury, exposure to environmental risk during pregnancy or at young age, maybe like oil spill or chemical whatever, and alcohol and tobacco during the use of alcohol and tobacco during pregnancy, might also be the reason for ADHD. Premature delivery and low birth rate also might be contributing factors to the risk and the causes of ADHD. Now, what are the diagnoses? I also did mention the fact that just like malaria, just like typhoid and all other illnesses, ADHD is not something that you can just go to the hospital and say, I have ADHD, can you treat me? How do I know that I have ADHD? I want to run a test or something. But just like other illnesses, I did mention that you cannot go to the hospital and take a test for depression. You cannot go to the hospital and take a test for learning disabilities, but ADHD is like this as well. You cannot go to the hospital and say, I want to run a test for ADHD. It has different steps. One of the process involves having medical examination, which includes hearing and vision test, and to rule out other problems with symptoms like ADHD. Now, diagnosing ADHD usually includes a checklist of for rating ADHD symptoms and taking a history from the child, the parent, the teachers, if possible, to ascertain whether or not